Да, ребят, поэтому если у кого-то вдруг будут возникать вопросы в процессе работы Тревора, то поднимайте руки, я буду передавать микрофон, и вы сможете пообщаться с ним, но желательно эту тему не затягивать по возможности. Конечно.
А можно вопрос? А кто это и что за вселенная, и вообще что это за персонаж?
Окей.
She's just going to be a very showy assassin. She wants every one of her hits to be a bit of a fashion show for herself. It's a chance to show off how awesome she is physically. And this is crazy for me, sorry. It just something out there, something that, you know, if you were talking about a real assassin, you would never want somebody as high profile as a runway model or something like that. But it's just somebody who's completely sociopathic, absolutely no conscience, all eyes on her, and every single hit becomes a runway show. And as far as the universe, I've been doing a series of things that I unfortunately don't have here with me that are sort of a science fiction bio-horror sort of thing, like organic armor and hoses everywhere and just weird organs placed wherever the hell I want just because it's really fun. And so she's sort of fitting into that universe where everything is sort of biological and chemical. Okay, I'm going to put this on again.
Что сейчас в дизайне нам показывает, что она ассасин?
Well, there's actually going to be a weapon hanging out in this hand here. And then apart from that, probably not much else. I guess we would be relying on narrative for a lot of it. I love this. And I'll see if I can work some of that stuff into the design as I go. This is definitely not going to be finished today. As you can see, I'm talking with my hands a lot instead of drawing and taking this in and out. But we'll see. I'm just going to go straight to the underneath here, not worry about the parts above, and see what parts of the jellyfish sort of thing I can translate into the sleeve. So, is that the right layer? There we go. So right now I'm just, why is this happening? Is there a way I can, there we go. Sensitivity. Sorry about that. Let's see what's going on. Well, I'll do the best I can. I can't read any of the UI, so I'm just going to struggle through it. So I'm going to go back and forth to the sewing machine reference to figure out some design language for mechanical transitional elements. So stuff like this in here is pretty valuable.
Okay, and here we have another question.
Yeah, I don't want to sound ignorant or something,
Okay.
but this thing, like you're saying, this will be a fashionable, like artistic assassin.
Yes.
It kind of make me feel like you were one of the authors for Jhin in League of Legends. Is that correct?
Oh, no. I never would have made that.
And which characters did you create?
I designed Yasuo and Lysandra, and I did the reworks for both Nasus and Renekton, but the rest of the time I was primarily doing world building for IP and a couple of unannounced, still in progress projects.
And one more question here.
Hi, Trevor, and I want to ask you about your tool now.
No,
Yes, sorry.
she's speaking.
Yeah, I speak English. Sorry. Of course. Yeah, and I really interested in that cover for that pen that you use now. Can you talk more about why you are using that and why do you prefer that cover, that pink cover? Yeah.
I
Thank you.
worked to the point where my hands didn't function correctly anymore. And I've spent the last 2 years dealing with this. I've been on, I think for 6 months at my last company before I decided to leave. I had been on medical leave. So holding the regular pen is actually quite painful for me. But putting this large grip on there, the sensation of touching this grip reminds me that I shouldn't be pushing so tight on it, and I don't have to put my fingers close together to use it. Unfortunately, I can't use the sweet little buttons on there, but it's a small price to pay if I can actually draw for me. See, I love quilted materials, so I'm probably going to try and work a little bit into the interior there. It probably would be overlooked by most people looking at it, but I'm going to see if I can get that to work in.
And one more question from the audience.
Yeah.
Please tell me, what made you choose jellyfish for the inspiration? When you think of fashion, you think of feathers, fur, leather, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Why a jellyfish?
I think maybe primarily because it's unexplored territory in the fashion world, although I think Alexander McQueen had a lot of aquatic life designs, or the inspiration for a lot of Alexander McQueen's were aquatic life. A lot of it in the folds and the way he constructed the outfits, less than the prints he would put on them. But I don't know, it's just, I love translucent materials. I like big billowing shapes and like nice sort of saggy but heavy material folds, and I think a good analog for that would be jellyfish. And so I'm really using that as a reference just because I like the idea of it in the first place as a physical substance, and then the jellyfish is a way for me to make it maybe a little bit more believable, or at least a little bit more interesting than what I have going on in my imagination alone. Let's see. So just trying to get some of this fold language in there.
So Trevor, here you have, just put your phone, yeah?
Okay.
Извините за то, что приходится на русском. Как вы выбираете
No, it's
палитру?
okay.
Как вы выбираете цвета, палитру конкретно для каждого персонажа? То есть, как вы конкретно подбираете цвета и смотрите, как они подходят друг к другу?
Sometimes it's something I've decided on long before I finished a drawing. A lot of times it just comes from experimentation once I have base forms blocked in. So I'll do very flat color underneath and experiment it with for a while until I find a design that pleases me. But as far as there being some learning or logic to it, it's pretty much just however I feel at the moment. And sometimes I'll even go back to something months later and say, I hate this color, and I'll just go ahead and change it again. But for the most part, it's just something that's very fluid and flexible until I actually start painting and rendering. She needs a follow-up.
Okay, yeah.
То есть вы не используете цветовые схемы, ну там какие уже... То есть если изучать как-то... Да, теорию цвета, как бы какие цвета с друг другом сочетаются, то есть вы не пользуетесь какими-то схемами там?
I mean, there's a foundation there, like stuff that I have learned in the 1 year of college I had. there's things that you get used to over time, and a lot of my color inspiration comes from like very graphic, like 60s poster art, or what's it called? Swiss design, like 60s and 50s Swiss graphic design. They just always had these really nice color palettes that seem to go against just traditional color theory. And so I just want to make things that excite me. I generally have slight rules about it, nothing that I stick to as a religion, but I'll have sort of a predominant color, another color that I use in a much lower percentage, and then I'll have like this one that I put in maybe just 3 or 4 places that really pops. And there should be some neutrals around there as well to fill in gaps, but again, it's not like a religion for me or anything like that. I just play with it until I'm happy. All right, transitional elements. Back to my reference again. This one's really nice. I like these shapes in here. And I was thinking it would be really interesting to have sort of a variation on this that was flexible, that could be gloves and come up the arms, maybe kind of like a rubberized material or something that follows this basic design principle. And then again, maybe having that as the boots all the way up. It's just, you know, fun flavor, but it's not necessarily going to make or break the design.
And here, one more question.
Hi, I want to ask how much time do you need to make a final character, and how much it takes in case with your hand, this problem? Thank you.
It could, I mean, in my current situation, depending on whether I'm having a good day or a bad day with the pain, it could take me probably like a couple of weeks to finish even one thing. So lately, my time has been spent just sketching and getting ideas out quickly while I'm not hurting, and not really bothering with any finished stuff. I've done a little bit of like painting and rendering, just to figure out if I still remember how to do it, because I had literally not drawn for a year up until about a month ago. So apparently it doesn't go away, which is cool. It's nice to know that I didn't forget everything I knew. But again, it's something that I at least in my current state, I can't actually spend a lot of time doing. So I would rather just get the big ideas out quickly and have a record of them, so by the time my hands are better again, I can go back and finish all the work up. Or maybe I'll just forget them forever. Like my philosophy about any of the artwork I do is I commit as hard as I can to every single shitty sketch, tiny design, like it doesn't matter what it is. I commit to it fully, I don't second guess. And if I throw it out, that's fine. I will start all over again, keep doing it, throw it out. I'm not timid about any of the design, and I won't hesitate to throw anything away. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just try to embrace every little sketch wholeheartedly and not be afraid of what the results are going to be.
And one more question.
Yeah, you said that you were unfamiliar with the PC. I just wanted to ask, which device you were starting with while drawing? I mean, like, with creating digital works, and which one are you using right now, currently?
Probably going to start a whole bunch of arguments here, but I'm just using an iMac right now, and when I started doing digital work, I was also using an iMac, but one of those giant, huge teal green ones from the early 2000s. I've just ever since I was a kid, the only computer I had access to was a Macintosh. My father had a work laptop that was running MS-DOS, but it was a Mac. And so when I got older, I don't think I had a computer until I was like 22 or 23. I just went ahead and bought a Macintosh again, and I got used to it. And in the late 90s, I was doing file cleanup for a printing company. So we were printing paintings on these massive drum printers, rolling drum printers, and you would have to clean the scans. So these were actual paintings that were photographed onto a transparency. The transparencies were scanned, and there was always dust on them, so we had to go in with Photoshop and clean them up. And when I was working at that company, I was also using a Macintosh because those were the only computers able to run the printers. And so I just sort of got locked into that operating system, and I find it comfortable. Oh, whoa, something just happened. Okay. It's funny, every once in a while I look at the UI and I get completely lost. And again, I want to bring some of this jellyfish detail and just put it right up against the more sculpted. I mean, this is a fairly organic design, but it is definitely man-made, and so I want to see if I can get some of that organic right next to the man-made material. Be fun if, like, as she's walking, it flows around or something like that. Maybe doesn't move quite naturally or keeps moving as if it's underwater while she's walking. Let's see. Okay. And at this stage, while I'm still kind of exploring the design, I'm not really worried about line quality. To be honest, I'm not working on my own machine, so worrying about line quality is difficult anyways. Not everything is set up the way you're used to. But I'm just trying to find where that design is. It'll likely go through another pass of refinement before I would go through and start rendering. But there's just a lot of exploration you can do without it having to be final. I like that. It's kind of gross.
Okay, Trevor, and here we have another question.
Awesome.
Hello, Trevor.
Hello.
What do you like to draw the most, characters or environment? And how to love to draw environment, because I hate environments.
I have maybe drawn 4 environments professionally. My career didn't really start in any sort of real way until I was 30. And I was one of those people that subscribed to the philosophy, do what you love until somebody starts paying you for it. You know, so eventually I got to this point where people would pay me to do characters, and most of the time when I'm hired, it's either characters or like industrial design, like maybe weapons or mechs, a couple of vehicles, but not usually. It's usually robots or characters. And that's honestly how I avoid doing environments. I can't figure out how to love them. I love the idea of it. I want to build worlds and all this stuff, but I only get I do them to the point where it doesn't look like the worst thing I've ever drawn, and then I say, I've got the idea. I know what this is supposed to be. It's time to get back to the thing that I enjoy. So I'm completely guilty of just falling into that trap of staying mostly within my comfort zone.
Does your style differ from your personal style? Like your professional from your personal.
I have always been hired based on my personal work, and I have never been paid to do anything even remotely like my personal work. It is what it is. This is the reason why I don't work for anyone anymore. This is why I've decided to just go on my own and try to make my own products. Man, I am moving really slow. Hey guys, look what I did. I drew like 6 lines in the last half hour. This is a professional work speed. Let's get some of this jellyfish in here. Some of that good jelly. I tell you what though, I never get tired of this. I don't, you know, at this point in my life have those days where it's like, oh, I can't draw, I don't want to do it. Like, you know, I don't sit there and look at my computer and dread actually creating stuff, and that feels great. It feels great to look at your computer or your sketchpad and just always want to do something with it, even when you're not particularly inspired. There's something very freeing about being able to get on there and just really make a mess. I don't think you have to draw something good every day, but I do think you should try and draw every day when you can. And I've definitely come to a larger appreciation for the time I get to spend drawing since this injury set on. And so I try not to waste any of my time. I try to always be working towards something when I get a chance to do it. And it's probably one of the ways that I keep myself from getting burnt out. It's just I always have a project to be working toward. I have like 20 of them. And I always have some goal to work towards. So if I don't feel like working on one thing, I can work on another. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think that's pretty good right there. Let me see if I can get some of that, again, this Rococo design language going in here. What is that doing? Okay. One of the things that took me the longest to understand as an artist was subtlety. Subtlety is a really hard thing to get in your work. It's crazy the amount of time I spent trying to get things that could feel delicate into my work instead of just cool shapes that were angry looking. And who knows, maybe I really haven't achieved it yet, but I feel like I've improved. Oh.
So here we will have one last question and then end the session. Okay?
Okay.
Well, I actually have 2 questions.
Okay.
I think they are related.
Liar!
Trevor, I wanted to ask you, how do you feel now when you look at your artwork back in the days when you were starting your career?
I'll tell you what, after this, I will show you some artwork from when I was 20 years old that I have on my phone.
Yeah.
You can just laugh at me. It's fantastically bad, super bad.
And also, in what way did your style evolve over the years? Like, what were the largest changes? And also, did your workflow change a lot?
My workflow
Like,
has changed immensely, and it's constantly changing. That's one thing. I think it's good to have a single sort of process that you can fall back on for work or when you need to get something done quickly. but I don't think you should ever just assume that you've figured it all out and you've got the perfect workflow. I think constantly evolving is valuable. You'll continue to keep learning new techniques and figure out stuff to add and take away from your base workflow, but you've got to keep experimenting outside of that. My standard for design is generally I do a big shitty sketch with a giant blocky brush just to get sort of pose done. I will gesture in like a couple of details, and then I'll do like 2 to 3 quick line passes on top to really settle in where the details are and proportion and everything like that. But when I'm feeling aimless and I don't have something specific in mind, I'll often just paint directly in color, just figure out, like just different things I could be adding to it, or I'll watch some tutorials and just try what some other people do. But I'm always wanting to improve the way I work. And I think if I don't keep learning, I'm just going to stagnate, and then all of my work will start to look the same to me, as it did for like at least five years of my career. I felt all of my work was exactly the same. And it really hasn't changed that much, to be completely honest with you. But I try my best to branch out and approach things differently. The first part of the question I completely forgot now, which is fantastic.
Art, and how do you look at your old, like artworks now? Are you laughing at it, or maybe do you like have some kind of nostalgia, or maybe something like that?
I look at it like this, shaking my head, just the tears come down. What's funny is I've kind of always been interested in the same stuff, and when you go back and you look at a lot of your older work, and you realize that, oh, I was still doing like augmented human sci-fi stuff, cyborgs, robots, not just when I was 22 years ago, but when I was like 8 or 9. Like my parents' house, they have a couple of my drawings, and I was constantly just drawing robot stuff for people with robo-arms and shit like that. So it's weird to look back at it and realize, oh wait, I've really never been interested in anything else. I've always just sort of wanted to do this thing. But as far as the quality of my work, I look back at some of my older work before I went digital, and I was definitely a better draftsman with a pencil then. Like, say what you will about the proportions, say what you will about the designs. Maybe they weren't great, maybe the proportions were bad, but I actually knew how to use a pencil. I think I felt like I had pretty good control over it, which I just don't now.
Okay, guys, and actually at this awesome point, we need to finish this great lecture from the Trevor Claxton, so let's greet him and say him thank you for his awesome work.